Okay, we're a few minutes past the hour. Why don't we kick this off? So, thank you everybody for attending the very first Maro demo webinar. We have a lot of awesome things to share with you today, and we're so excited to show you all the things we've been working on here at Maro. A quick run through of our agenda. We're going to do some quick introductions across the team who will be demoing for you today. We're going to give a high-level Maro overview. So what are the problems we're solving, how we believe we need to solve them, and then we're going to move very quickly into a product demo of all the use cases we talked through. So that's things like social engineering, data exposure prevention, and AI governance. And then we're going to talk about what's next on the roadmap, and we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. Now, please, please, please submit questions along the way. There should be a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So go ahead and submit those throughout the webinar and the demo itself. We have time explicitly to answer questions at the end, but we will also try to answer anything live as it pertains to the demo. And with that, let's do some quick introductions. So for those who don't know me, my name is Gwen Betts. I am our Chief Experience and Marketing Officer here at Maro. And I've been working with Jaden and Jen for well over 10 years now, both as founding team members and other security companies like Rapid7. Jaden, Jen, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jaden. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Maro. As you can see from those tiny icons, I first worked with Jen at a company called ThreatStack. When I was a wee lad, I think I was carrying water bottles once upon a time. My number one priority in the day was just to make sure that everybody was hydrated. Come a long way since then. Jen, I'll pass it to you.
Hi, I'm Jen, CTO at Maro. I've been working with Jaden and Gwen for a long time as well. My career has primarily been in cybersecurity and cybersecurity products for the past 20 something odd years. Um, Worked with Jaden first at a cloud security company called ThreatStack, and both Jaden and Gwen later at a security orchestration automation company called Command, which was acquired by Rapid7. Excited to be here.
Awesome. And with that, we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to pass it off to Jaden to introduce what we're doing here at Maro.
Thanks, Gwen. And we're going to get through this pitch in under 5 minutes. That's the
I'm
guarantee
holding
I'll
you to that. I'm holding you to that.
so we can get to demo as fast as possible. Part of the reason we can get through the pitch so quickly is I think for everybody in attendance, we can all agree that the problem is very clear. I recently went and dug up the original Verizon data breach investigations report from 2008. And as you can see on the screen, even that year, 62% of breaches were attributed to what Verizon was calling at the time just significant error or significant human error. Fast forward to 2025, and the stat comes out this year, as it does every year. 60% of breaches involved what we now broadly call the human elements. What's funny is if you look at the original 2008 DBIR, there was already a root cause analysis done that basically said the paragraph on the right-hand side here. Policies and procedures were established at many of these companies that were breached, but they just were not enacted. And in many cases, victims knew exactly what they needed to do, fully intend to do it, but did not follow through. And today, we see a lot of pressure increasing on our employees and also a lot of our friends and families. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner that as the FBI continues to release their IC3 stats, that investment fraud, crypto schemes, and a whole lot of other nasty things are on the rise. So one of the things that we, the leadership team here at Maro, strongly believe is that we might agree on the problem statements, but maybe our solutions to the problem are a little outdated. And in particular, there's a lot of focus today on security awareness training and security products that are stopping phishing attacks at just the email layer. We're facing, though, what I think we call just an AI crosswind, a lot of threats that maybe these two things are not really well positioned to help us stop or help tamp down human risk. On the left-hand side, you see, I think you guys all saw that Anthropic released a report saying, hey, look, this is how threat actors are using Claude. And there might not be any quote unquote paradigm shifts in how phishing is improving, but it's just that the attacks themselves have gotten a lot more targeted and a lot cheaper. Now you can basically turn any phishing email into a spear phishing email. And then on the right-hand side here, we see a lot of our own customers telling us, wow, so if you're able to cut down on human risk, if you're able to change users' behavior, are you able to help us get a handle on our AI stack as well? Are you able to help us with AI governance? And we believe these two buckets of human risk are really the most important contributors to human risk in the status quo. So if we go to the next slide, well, how do we do things differently? We decided that, and I think you'll hear even security awareness training vendors talk about human risk as really a behavioral challenge. It's not enough to just say, "Hey, everyone's done their training. We looked in the database and we checked off that all 10 of our employees successfully read through these." Questions and answered them right while they were watching Netflix. It's much more important to make sure that they're turning insecure behaviors into the right choices, the things that your security team is trying to push on a regular basis. So we call that approach cognitive security. And the reason for that is because we think that, again, a lot of the focus right now in the industry is on teaching you to go through this logical decision-making process when you see evidence of social engineering. That process is circumvented entirely when you're at your most stressed, your vigilance is really low. Think it's Q4 and I'm on the sales team and I have to hit my quota in the next 4 days. When a fake DocuSign comes in that says, hey, down to close, here's the quote, just need you to click this link and open it, I'm going to do that. Cognitive security knows that attackers are kind of looking at these human vulns and abusing those. So we say that the better solution is not just training people, it's instead equipping them with a constant companion or a mentor or an educator to make the right choices when they matter. And that educator is Maro. So if we go to, I think, our last slide here, what you'll see in today's demo on the left-hand side is a guardian, an agent that really intervenes to protect people before they become the next incident, before they become a statistic that your security team is dealing with. And then on the right-hand side, I will show you a little bit about our platform, where a lot of security teams today are using us to get a handle on their AI governance stack. And they're also using us to make sure that they're able to see all those behaviors, those insecure behaviors coming from their users, and can start to push those in the right direction. Gwen, I did it, I think, right? Was that 5 minutes?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so proud of you. It's like less than 5 minutes.
So I will
Okay.
pass it to Gwen to show you a demo.
Yeah, so as Jaden's highlighted, what we've built is a browser extension that operates as an agent to protect you while you are doing your job on the internet and in the browser. And as you mentioned, some of the biggest vectors for human risk are things like social engineering, AI misuse, data exposure. But what I'm going to walk you through is that first use case, which is social engineering. And if you look in our side panel here, right now we have an experience that as you browse, first of all, we are assessing every single website and web session you have. And what we're doing is we are classifying and categorizing what we believe is safe usage, unsafe usage, and or safe websites. And then we're looking at like in totality, all of the indicators of things that could be compromised or could be a social engineering attack. And so if we go back to our specific website that we're on today, one of the biggest vectors we see and we talk to our customers about are things like login pages. That's where attackers are essentially trying to harvest credentials from you, right? And one of the things Maro does very quickly is it's looking at the DOM, it's looking at the URL, and it's analyzing for indicators of psychological tactics. We're not just looking at static indicators like IPs or regular expressions alone, but we're taking a look at the content of the website and making a determination of if this displays any sign of social engineering tactics. And when you look in the sidebar here, what we do is we give you a summary. That's kind of like a layman's version so you can understand at a glance what happened. We're giving you guidance. We're also giving you guidance directly in the page itself by telling you with a notification what we believe is not safe and specific interactions that you should not take. If you scroll further in the sidebar, what you're looking at is the kind of psychological tactics and the kinds of scams that social engineers and attackers are very targeted about. And in this case, very clearly, it's a login page impersonation. It's using some kind of form-based data collection. And in some cases, it could be government agency impersonation, but we look at the threat classification there and the specific psychological tactics. And then if you're somebody who really cares about the signals and flags, we also give a deeper analysis about why aspects of this website or this web page were fishy, if you will. And then finally, because the most dangerous thing you can do or an employee can do is actually engage and continue to interact with this experience, we actually block the interactive pieces outright so that they can fail safely, right? So they may have stumbled upon this page from your business email compromise tool that maybe missed the URL. They maybe had gotten it through another messaging platform. There are a bunch of different ways that people can find themselves in scams online. And the important thing that Maro does is it's actually looking at your web session and looking at a page by page analysis. So it doesn't matter if you're in email, it doesn't matter if you're on a regular website. We're just analyzing specific indicators of social engineering. And then another common tactic that we see with social engineers, as you can imagine here, is LinkedIn, Facebook messages, you name it. This is where we are seeing a lot more outreach too, where social engineers are impersonating people that you might trust and be close with. And in this case, if you look closely, it looks like Jaden, CEO and co-founder, sent me a message about a new crypto investment strategy. I'm super into crypto. This might look really alluring to me, and I might want to click that link right away. But if you notice here, we're actually evaluating the page as well, and we flagged already that this page and this message is not safe. And just like before, you'll see there's a conclusion and a summary of why. There's guidance of what to do and what not to do. And then there are additional threat classifications and signals here that you can look at to see deeper what could potentially have set off this detection. And then another thing that we have been doing is if you have questions or you do or don't believe that this is phishing, you can actually ask Maro outright. And Maro, our chatbot, will engage in a conversation with you about deeper questions you may have in an educational format. Now from here, say, I still thought that this, was safe and I clicked this message. Maro is going to follow you and keep you safe through that entire session. And one of the bigger crypto payment websites, River, is huge for being able to make payments anonymously back and forth. And as Jaden said earlier, crypto scams are growing exponentially. So we hear from our customers all the time that this is a big attack vector that, not only they want their people protected against, but personally they want to be protected against. And very quickly, you'll see that Maro already assessed the page. Once again, it blocked all the interactive capabilities here so that you don't have to worry about your people clicking on links or giving information that maybe or may not be safe. And again, you can continue to look at the sidebar here and evaluate, what's not safe about this particular interaction in case you have any questions. That really covers the social engineering piece. What we'd love to show you next is how we're assessing for policy, your usage policies in your organization, and how Maro helps keep you and your people safe with effective and responsible usage.
Before we do that, Gwen, I did see a question come in that really pertains to this section of the demo. I think Jen might be the right person to answer it. Jen, do you see the question? It's how do you ensure accuracy to prevent, false positives or worse, false negatives?
Yeah. Definitely on our side, I think the thing, because we're interrupting the user in real time, our big focus right now is definitely preventing false positives. And as you can probably have guessed through our demonstration is that, again, we're not just relying on, I think, traditional static techniques, right? We want to be able to catch both content in safe websites and potential new spun up scam websites that could be phishing. So things that aren't already in things like Fish Tank and your other threat intel tools. And there's generally always a risk there of flagging on false positives and potentially missing false negatives. So I think the first thing we want to do is instrument that, right? And I think Gwen might have showed you there is that this looks wrong button as one option. So we do collect feedback and we actually measure reports. We have some metrics we want to target for all users. Basically, hey, like we want to be wrong less than 2 times a week for each user. So when we start to see basically flat like reports come in here, there are some kind of manual techniques and automated techniques we try to do to try to determine why our analysis engine got it wrong. Um, I think there's like other things that, we've considered doing. Like right now, our false positive rate is, pretty low, but should it become an issue, right, we can actually do things like, maybe not alert the user and kind of log in the back end. It could be something maybe more for the security team to review. I know Jaden hasn't yet demonstrated our CISO portal, but yeah, I think the goal here is to basically instrument and collect feedback when we see something that's wrong, and then feed that back into the analysis engine based off of that feedback. We also, have tests of fake phishing websites and normal websites, and try to ensure that our data behaves as expectedly whenever we push changes to our engine.
Great question.
Yeah, really good question. Keep them coming, please.
Yeah, I don't think we have any other questions yet. Jaden, take it away.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to talk through the next flow, which, as I mentioned, is AI governance. And this journey for us has been one where we've kind of evolved with our design partners as early as we started developing the product. As I mentioned at the beginning, we were really focused on social engineering as a risk, but it was about December of last year when our design partners started coming to us saying, listen, by tomorrow, I need something that can block my employees' access to DeepSeek. And I think ubiquitously by first, or well, maybe it was the second week of January, if it came out the first week, all policies across the country suddenly had a new line that said no usage of DeepSeek is allowed at our organization. So we listened to our customers, and one of the first things we wanted to do was give their users, their employees, an understanding of what is in scope for your generative AI policy and what is not in scope. And more importantly than this pop-up that you just saw that would not allow me to access DeepSeek is, as a user, it's also possible for me to basically go to any website and read if there's any Maro-related policy associated with it. So if I'm a user here, usually when I'm looking for the policy, like let's not talk generative AI, we're talking social media policy or sensitive data policy or handling credit card data. These things tend to be written one time, maybe updated once a year if compliance or regulation standards change, and then basically get emailed out to users. And we knew that getting it in front of employees' faces was one of our top priorities. So a user at any given point in time can actually come into the policy, and this pulls it out from that, crusty file share, or like no, we have Notion or Google Drive, and instead lets your users figure out directly not just what they can access, but what things they're allowed to do with different tools. So in this case, you might notice there's some jokes in here, like you should not be able to illustrate in Studio Ghibli style because that was lame after like 3 days. And there's also other policies that we've added here for things like not sharing credit card data. So that's what a user sees, and we're going to come back to the user flow a little bit later, but I think it'll be a little more illustrative to start with what security teams do in Maro. This is the platform that Jen was talking about previously. And what you see here is what we call our cognitive security snapshot. And we think it was really important that, there's a lot of complicated policy, or maybe many pages of policy that an organization might write in its lifetime. But at the top level, what we want to give organizations is the understanding of how many sessions online are aligned with the policy that you've written, and then how many are misguided. And from there, this should feel like a flag on the beach that says like, hey, the waves today are a little bit taller than usual. Maybe you shouldn't swim. And as a security team, you're going to want to use Maro to figure out why there's so many misguided sessions. So I'm going to walk you through what that could look like. A lot of our users will come in here and then they might check out all of the AI apps that are in usage. So for example, I might click Claude, and Maro will start to surface usage summaries from across all of your employees. For instance, that 4 employees have used Claude over the last month. which is up 10% from the previous period. One of the things that we found was really important, though, is that when writing new policy, a lot of our customers were writing it kind of like it was kind of like from an ivory tower. So you would, from up here, cerebrally think about what your user should be able to do and not do, but you don't really have the visibility to know if people are respecting those guidelines. So what we built here is the ability for a user to come in and say, okay, I want to know from the ground up perspective. So basically here, you're inductively reasoning, right? What are the things my users are doing? And one you might notice here that I triggered today was writing performance reviews. So this is something that actually came up with one of our design partners a couple weeks ago, where they said, hey, we actually created a policy for writing performance reviews because it saved our managers so much time. And if you see this happening and you say, okay, I can see some users writing performance reviews here, I might want to immediately go in Maro and create a policy that says, until I get that under control, I'm not really super comfortable with our employees going in and putting all the data about our employees into a chat tool. And I think probably the funniest example of this in the last couple months and how this could shake out was, or maybe you guys have seen that Amazon found that a lot of their interview questions were surfacing on the frontier models as they were getting updated. So I think one of the legitimate fears here is that as your organization is throwing in information, not only are the frontier models learning about you, but really you might be broadly socializing the way you do stuff like performance reviews or sharing information about your employees without meaning to. It's really easy to add a new use case. So I can come in here and basically search in the wild for any of those use cases that Maro has observed. And none of these things were predetermined, right? These were things that zero-shot Maro is classifying as your users were engaging in different AI tool usage. And so here I'm going to look for performance review writing, and I'm just going to do something as simple as saying, we're not allowed to do that anymore. I am going to publish these changes. And one thing you'll see from Maro is that we are then keeping an audit log of all the policies that you've previously created. So all those little tweaks actually do something. And now, if we switch back to the user side, I might try to create a performance review. But first, I might again try to look at the policy. Let's check it out. And let's see if we are not able to do this. Oops.
I think it takes a bit to generate, so you might have just been too quick to draw.
Fast.
Too
Fast.
fast.
But let's just try it anyways. So here, let me do it. PDF is still generating. So I'm going to write a performance review for Jan Endra, one of our amazing SEs, and see what happens. And while Claude is working on this, I'll show you a couple more things about how this works. You can always come back into the Maro portal and see from a high level perspective how performant your policy is and when the last time someone saw it. So, there's this problem of attestation where you might be able to get out, you might be able to show that people have signed a policy as of like 6 months ago. That doesn't really answer the question of like, at the time where they violated the policy, had they seen the latest version? What was the diff between seeing that version and doing the thing, and so on? Nice. Okay, look, so here we got a performance review for Jan. And what we should expect to see in Maro is a violation. And one thing you can basically do if you wanted to see a roll-up of this is you could always come to our dashboard and try to see who's kind of contributing the vast majority of these violations. So that's, sorry, Gwen. And I could always come
On
up
the nose example.
yeah. And you can always check out an individual user. So you can see the different tools that they're using, what apps they're spending a lot of time in, and obviously the violations that they're creating as well. Okay, so let's check out and see if this generated.
Jaden, really
Yes.
quick too, we do have another question.
Okay, please.
How does Maro pull AI app and prompt data? And is that still the browser extension in use?
It is. It is the browser extension. So obviously that gives us a lot of visibility, to put it lightly, a lot of purview over the user and the things they can do. And that's really helpful to us. But we recognize that there's a huge implication both for privacy and also complication for compliance. So I guess to put it plainly, if we're collecting all this user data, then like what does Maro get? What do we store and train? So we've been really cognizant about this and have worked very diligently to make sure that a lot of this data, the prompt data, is encrypted end to end, that we are able to obfuscate some data that's really sensitive so that Maro servers don't see it. And then lastly, that we're really totally aware of, I guess, the impact or the gravity of being able to collect this kind of data from users. Jen, anything to add there? I know it's been a work in progress for sure.
No, I think you got it right. I think we recognize that, there's pros and cons to the browser extension approach, right? We can definitely see a lot of stuff in real time. I think one of the things we also hear from customers that we're considering is also, again, expanding our endpoint presence to the endpoint itself, right? So I think things like, AI usage in IDE tools, or, your own personal like desk cloud, like something like a cloud desktop or something where you're, running tasks, might be useful for us to monitor and capture. But yeah, I think the TLDR is yes, our current collection mechanism is the browser extension.
Yeah. Cool. So you guys can see here that we were able to trigger a violation. And one of the amazing things about Maro is it allows teams to just really write policy just completely flexibly and in plain English. So I think, old world technologies would have really relied on things like regular expressions to kind of figure out, okay, is what the user doing violating some policy? That leads to a ton of false positives and also false negatives. In our modern, AI native approaches here make it easy to take something pretty complicated and then say, look, we've mapped that to something that you said was not okay vis-a-vis your policy. And I think I'm going to end the demo by showing you guys one thing on this on this page, which is we just call your organization. And it might not look like the most powerful thing. It's just a bunch of fields, but there is some really cool stuff going on here. So one of our early design decisions was that when you think about like a status quo DLP product or any product that tries to stem the flow of sensitive data, oftentimes it requires you to have a full data strategy set up from scratch. So you have to be able to say, look, these are our crown jewels. Not only can I label them, I can tell you exactly in what form they appear, and I can tell you where they live, and now you can start protecting me. We wanted to flip that equation on its head for Maro. So even if you don't spend a ton of time on that policies page that I showed you, you can come into your organization page and start off by just dropping in documents about your organization. So I dropped in literally the pitch deck for our company. And if you come back here to the policy context page and also provide your company name and your domain and press AI configure, Maro will do its best job. It'll make its best effort trying to tell itself more about your organization. And I hope you can see where this is going because, again, good DLP starts from a really good understanding of your organization. And so one of the things I did here was added in some partners here. We have some dear friends on the call. I don't know if they're actually here, but Sean Kelly / Stabby, if you're here, let's imagine you have a company and we named it something like Stabby Co. And one of our other friendly vendors in the space, an incredible startup, Alley Security. Those are our partners, right? And our platform here, that's all it really knows is that you have those partners. So if I then go to ChatGPT or something else, I might say, hey, what is, let's see, guide points revenue in 2025 for, forgot what year it is. And then at the same time, let me run another one just so we can see how this works. And I'll say, hi, what do you know about Stabby Co? And why don't I just do another one since we're here?
Our Claude user here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just close that. Okay, look, Stabby Co doesn't exist, so that's fine. Okay, there we go. Ooh, nice. A shout out if Allie is here on the call or you guys don't know what Allie is, you should check out their tabletop exercises. They're amazing. All right, so let's get back to Maro now. And the point is, this should have been enough, right, for it to start generating different kinds of violations based on what we're finding. So you can see here that there's no violation generated for GuidePoint, which is a really massive reseller. We could be partnered with them, but because we know from our organizational context, they're not an important partner today of Maro, as an example, then we're not going to generate an alert. And in this case, we did. So we have here one of our out-of-the-box protections here triggering on third-party information protection. We are listed as a key party vendor or partner, which is going to immediately, again, with no changes to the policies, start to give you an understanding of the sensitive data flowing around your organization at the last mile where the user is. And so I think the last thing, I guess I already said last thing twice, but I'd love to show is if you wanted to take a deep dive into what those data related out of the box policies are, again, as a user, you never really need to come to this page, but you might want to come in and see like, wow, there's all this stuff mapped to compliance frameworks that Maro is already doing to stop sensitive data from flowing at the last mile. I think that is it. Did I miss anything?
We do have one more question coming out of the policy violations. So can those policy alerts be sent to another security tool? And what sort of APIs do you have?
Jen, you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So this is actually a request we have in our backlog. I think this is kind of a no-brainer for us to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about the roadmap. We do have this kind of planned out with some of the future enhancements we're doing to our policy intervention architecture. But yeah, I think as of today, like we don't have any webhooks. There is an API that's not super stable right now that you could use to pull out violations. I think, some of the requests we get are for, integrations into systems and whatnot. So I think once we, again, have solidified kind of our next generation architecture here, we're definitely going to start building integrations and opening up things like webhooks to other security tools.
Lovely. I think we'll have a few more coming in a moment, but Jen, I think you're up next on the what comes next, right? Since you so eloquently framed it.
Yes. Thank you, Gwen. So here's some stuff we're working on from a roadmap perspective. Shout out to hopefully some of the engineers on the call are working on this stuff and hearing some of the questions and comments. But one of the big efforts we're working on here that's a little bit exploratory and actually pretty exciting is to shift our engines to be more privacy oriented. And what do I mean by that? I think you probably saw, just through our product that we do make use of things like generative AI for both social engineering and the policy analysis piece. And, I think, especially with the sensitivity and the data that our browser extension is handling, a lot of customers, again, might not necessarily be okay with the risk of sending stuff to Maro or sending stuff to the AI providers that we use. So what we are working on is basically kind of an option to bring your own model so that you can actually run social engineering with a model that you maybe trust. Maybe it's your own Bedrock instance, maybe it's a provider you have a contract with to power both our social engineering and policy engine pieces. The other option is using small language models or other local LLMs to do some of that analysis so it never leaves the box or never leaves the user's box unless there's a specific violation or specific finding for the security team to review. And again, like a lot of that technology is evolving and up and coming, but we've gotten some really exciting results using things like the Google's built-in Gemini into Chrome. But again, I think the idea is here is if you have something like a model that you're running locally, and again, this isn't necessarily very common today. We believe that, in 18 months, it's going to be even more common as we see more infrastructure providers and more operating systems building in local model capabilities. So I think that's kind of the end goal here. We want to be able to make sure that the user data stays private. Maro is only processing things that are kind of flagged as violations or flagged as real attacks. And that way, corporations and users can trust that their data is not necessarily being sent to areas that it shouldn't be sent to, or even just like it doesn't have to be sent tomorrow. The other piece of this is enhanced app reporting. So this is kind of a smaller effort, but as you can see, like I'm not sure actually Jaden demoed this, but we can see activity in terms of new apps that customers are using. So one use case for our customers is really discovering new AI apps that are being used, right? And you can think about this a little bit more broadly. There might be other apps that a security team isn't aware of. That's not part of a policy that they want to be able to allow or deny within their environment or set some kind of constraints around. So we're basically adding enhanced tracking so you can kind of see and distinguish between SaaS apps and maybe general websites. And maybe you really only care about new SaaS apps that could pose a business risk to your environment. Firefox support is another effort that we're working through. So we support Chrome and Edge right now. We're on their stores. And obviously, I think both being Chromium compatible have made it easy to do that. So we want to be able to also support our users who might use Firefox within their corporate environments. And the last piece is basically dealing with expanding beyond just AI activity and AI chatbot activity. So we are building right now the ability to create policies and interventions that help prevent data leakage across other websites. So, you might, again, you might have personal or confidential information you don't want certain users to share, even in email tools. We want you to just be able to set different types of policies that prevent this type of data leakage across many different types of websites. And again, like the idea here is to be able to let the user know in real time that, hey, this is not an approved app, or this use case is not approved, or this behavior, you shouldn't actually be sharing credit card data here. Because we believe that, again, the policy docs that people read, they don't really remember what the right usage is and what the right apps are. So the ability to intervene in real time and guide the user to the right website and the right usage is really important.
Lovely. And with that, I think that ends at least the prepared materials. Let's take a look at some additional Q&A. So we have a few more questions coming in. Number one, how is Maro deployed? So I know first we highlighted the browser extension, but we are today available in the Chrome store. So, as you install and use Maro, you can send the link to your users for the Chrome store. We're looking at opportunities, right, Jaden and Jen, to integrate directly into things like Intune so that they can be deployed en masse to organizations. And then we're also looking to get broader into other app stores like Firefox. And I believe we were officially in the Microsoft Edge store as of last month, right?
Yes, long-term struggle. Yeah, we are in that store. And then just a quick edit on deploying broadly. We've done so with Intune and Jump Cloud and anywhere else. It's pretty simple actually. A little funky in the config sometimes, but definitely doable to push out the browser extension or extensions across user devices via something like Intune.
Excellent. What are metrics I can report to the board to show return on investment?
That's an awesome question and also a loaded one. I think it's one that Gwen, as I understand it, you are going to do a series on at some point soon. I'll start from like the way we are approaching that issue, which is that we think that a lot of the ways we report on human risk today are pretty they're good, but have been the only ones really that we've used for the last 20-ish plus years. And I think the main one is actually a really great one, right? Is how many people have forwarded phishing emails to the security team. That was great, right? Because it showed not just that people were detecting phishing, but also that they were proactive about doing something around it. And that's a much better stat to show a single human behavior it's much better than just saying, hey, people didn't click on emails, right? Because we implemented a new tool. I think at Maro, we're going to try to stretch the boundaries on what metrics we're reporting here that are all focused on secure behaviors. Some examples of that I think are well known probably to those in attendance are things like we might have said everybody should move into pass keys, but actually what we've observed in the wild is that only 10% of the population has made that migration. So a great metric to report to the board, because we all know how incredible the security outcomes are, is okay, well, what's that look like after a month of deploying Maro? So there's auth related things for sure. And then, going back to the phishing example for a second, or maybe even AI governance, it's not today, we don't have to just say, did the security team learn something is fishy? We instead can say, someone landed on a website. How long did they pause before they took an action? Did they take the time to really evaluate whether their senses were being fooled entirely by deepfakes or by other things? And then what action did they take next? It might be in the future, this is happening so often that clicking send to security team every time isn't that useful, but being able to say, hey, this user is incredible. Our users take about 3 seconds to evaluate potential phishing. They navigate away at this frequency. That's a cool stat. And I'll just finish on one more example, which is how many times were we able to divert people from usage of AI tools that have not been reviewed by the security team and push them towards established pathways? I think that one's a major one as well, right? That's a huge piece of the AI governance workflow we've been helping our customers with. So build them a watering hole and deploy Mara and find out that only 1% of your users are using the enterprise licenses of the things you bought. And how does that change over time? So definitely a lot of new ideas here, but ones that we're going to be talking about a lot more moving forward.
Lovely. And then I think one final question, which we got ahead of this webinar. How do you compare to vendors and tools like KnowBe4? Let's take that one.
Any of you guys want to take that one? I can give my opinion later.
Well, I'll start off by saying, KnowBe4 is both a security training and phishing simulation tool. And, very often our customers use Maro as a complement to them, right? The way that we are different and the way that we interact directly with, your employees, with your workforce, is stopping and preventing the risk in the moment that it occurs, which current security awareness tools do not do today. So again, it's more of a complement today and a light education. But where we see a lot of strength and where we get a lot of good feedback from our customers is being able to intervene in that moment and course correct secure behavior to the appropriate thing to do versus just being educated on it.
I do see a comment. I do see a comment that came in that is corroborated by a lot of the more modern studies on security awareness training, saying that a lot of the time, if security awareness training is a static thing, unpersonalized, done once a year, it might not be not helpful. It might not just be unhelpful. It might be actively harmful. And that's a weird conclusion to come to, but the data is proving this out. So whether or not security awareness training has an incredible impact on organizations. As Gwen said, we like to set aside. And the metaphor I like to use is when I was a kid, I went to one party a year to learn how to bowl. And I'm horrible at bowling. Like I didn't learn from once a year how to not get the ball in the gutter. So Maro is really about putting up the bumper lanes and saying, why don't we just stop users in that moment from making the risky decisions? Let's stop the ball from going in the gutter. I think we have a cynicism around the ability to learn things when you only do them once a year. And maybe modern security awareness training tools will create a lot of change by not being so static and not being so annualized. But Maro takes a much more direct approach to stopping human risk than any of these tools.
And like you said, Jaden, what we're really, really focused on is securing behavior and demonstrating course corrective secure behavior change.
100%.
We did get another question come in. Will Maro stop the prompt from sending to the LLM?
Ooh, I'm gonna let Jen answer this one because it's taken a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, I would say stay tuned for the next demo because we have implemented basically what we're calling them quick fixes. I don't know if that's a great name for them.
Remediation actions.
Remediation
We
actions.
branded
Yeah, I
them as
don't know the
remediation actions.
but yeah. So some of the stuff we have in our upcoming features is the ability basically to stop the user from sending, and it's not just an LLM, by the way. So if you're typing something you shouldn't share in an email or somewhere else, right? You can actually have a policy where we prevent you from, sending that data. And then we allow the users to do things like redact it. If there's another website where it's appropriate to share that information, right? You're allowed to, share stuff on Notion, but not, a different like note-taking app, right? We actually provide guidance that will indicate that to the user as well. So yeah, I think like our idea here is we provide in our intervention experience the ability to stop that data from being shared and alternatives to the user if there's another approved LLM or another approved app for that use case.
I think that mostly wraps us up today. So thank you everybody for attending our first demo webinar. We are going to start doing these monthly. So, come back. We're going to promote them. So if you don't already follow us on LinkedIn, please follow us on LinkedIn. If you don't subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our newsletter. And we will see you next month for the latest and greatest from Maro. Thank you, folks.